Hey there, this is Dave from The Greg and Dave Show. Thank you for listening to the following broadcast here on Public House Media.
Hi everybody, this is Baxter Colburn from Public House Media. From all of us here at PHM, we'd like to thank you for your support and wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
What's up, everybody? This is Christian Heimel, host of Press Row here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my show, Press Row, where we talk about the biggest issues in sports with the analysts, experts, and reporters who cover them. No nonsense, hard-hitting interviews on the sports topics you're talking about. A new show comes out every single Thursday. And don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you never miss an episode of Press Row. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Good evening and welcome to the Thursday edition of Fantasy Wizards here on Public House Media. I'm Scott Wisniewski, flying solo today, and we're going to see if without the help of my usual Thursday partner, Kevin Wells, if I can help you with your last-minute lineups and your chance to get into the postseason. So we're going to get started on that, run through some of these things as quickly as we can. We'll start with some of the injuries, as you probably already know, or if you watched the games last week, and especially if you're an owner of Antonio Brown, he will be out probably for the rest of the regular season. So, if you play one of those Week 17 championships, hopefully you don't, you won't have him either. Devontae Adams is out. He'll likely be shut down for the remainder of the year. Rex Burkhead is likely out. A couple other key injuries that you're going to want to check as you get closer to kickoff. Matt Forte, Kelvin Benjamin, Julio Jones, some of the bigger names. There are some others on there, Emmanuel Sanders as well. Make sure you're checking. Also, remember, again, there are Saturday games, 2 games on Saturday. The big news is Ezekiel Elliott's back, taking on Seattle. We'll see what kind of an impact he has as he comes back. I believe that, for me, for example, as I've shared my story, I picked him up in a couple leagues back in Week 12, Week 11, and when the suspension had started, and while some owners had given up and didn't want to hold the roster spot, and I advanced the finals in both those leagues. So I'll be obviously relying heavily on him. Of course, I also lost Carson Wentz a few weeks ago, and I lost Devontae Adams this week. So it's been a mixed bag. But enough really about me. Let's see if we can get some of these lineup questions answered. We have a few of them, and I'll see how we might be able to help. So Jeff has a question. He needs a quarterback. He's got 3 to choose from. Nick Foles, Derek Carr, and Jimmy Garoppolo. Garoppolo plays one of the tougher secondaries in all of football at Jacksonville. Even though it's a home game, that's a tough matchup. Carr against Philadelphia. Carr's been kind of up and down this year. Nick Foles had a really good game last week, and an Oakland secondary that's not great. I think out of those 3, Nick Foles is probably the guy I would lean towards. Tim, looking for a running back, and his choices are Jamal Williams and Christian McCaffrey. Minnesota's defense is really good. Williams has been a really decent play. I see that Aaron Jones will probably get some of those carries this week as well, and Minnesota's just tough. I think the Packers could get down in that game early. I'd say probably McCaffrey's your better bet. Tony's looking for a flex option, Randall Cobb or Danny Woodhead. The Packers without Devontae Adams, somebody's going to have to catch the ball, right? Woodhead hasn't really integrated himself into that offense with Alex Collins and Buck Allen ahead of him. And even though he's a nice pass-catching option, if it's not a PPR league, and maybe even if it is, I think Randall Cobb's a better play. Chris needs 2 wide receivers, Larry Fitzgerald, Martavius Bryant, or Hill from Kansas City. Hill's one of those guys who's kind of, all or nothing. He gets a deep one or he gets a little bit of nothing. He's got a good matchup with the Miami secondary. Actually, there's really good choices here. There's not a bad choice, but Fitzgerald against a very bad Giants defense, and maybe Martavius Bryant with Antonio Brown out. If they don't give all the carries and all the production to Le'Veon Bell, I think Bryant's got a chance to do something. And lastly, Jason needs a running back. Uh, Mike Gillislee, Davis from Seattle, and Carlos Hyde. Wow. And he's playing in a championship game. Obviously, he's deep at other positions because it doesn't look like he's deep at running back. So let's take these one at a time. In theory, Gillislee should get more carries because Burkhead's not going to play. However, it's still Bill Belichick. Gillislee's been a healthy scratch and inactive for the last few weeks. I don't know that I can count on anything that happens from Bill Belichick. Davis with Seattle, probably the matchup of everybody, but he hasn't really topped 60 yards in any game yet. And Hyde's been a little bit disappointing, even though he's played some tough run defenses. It doesn't get any easier with Jacksonville. I think I would probably lean towards Davis, maybe Hyde. I think Gillislee's definitely out. So those are some of the lineup quandaries we have. We're going to go through each and every game here real quick. If you have any questions, you can certainly send them. We can answer them live for you. And again, hopefully help you win a championship. So 2 games on Saturday, Colts, Ravens. The question I would ask, who's a better player at running back, Gore, Allen, or Collins? Gore, of course, with the Colts, the other 2 running backs with the Ravens. Look, Buck Allen had the big game last week. I still think Alex Collins is the best running back in that group, so I would take him. Packers, Vikings, the other Saturday game. Question, over, under for Jamal Williams, 50 yards. I say over, but not by much. Maybe 60 yards for him. Adam Thielen, 95 over. I think he's going to have a huge game. Browns, Bears. Better play Deshaun Kaiser or Mitchell Trubisky. That's a tough one. It's like asking if I want to get hit with a hammer or hit with an anvil. I think Kaiser's going to have better stats, though I think the Bears will win this game. Over, under for Howard, 85 yards. I'd say over. I think that the Bears will lean on Howard and they'll win this game on the ground. Lions take on the Bengals. The Bengals have absolutely quit on this season and on Marvin Lewis. Over, under for Matt Stafford, 250 yards. I say over. Stafford has a big game. Rams, Titans, over, under Gurley, 100 yards. While the Titans have a really good running defense, I'm going to say under. I'm going to say about 85 yards and a touchdown for him. He had a huge game last week, won a lot of people some games, cost me a shot at a championship. I advanced in 4 leagues out of 6, but Gurley stood in my way in 2 of those. Dolphins, Chiefs, Travis Kelce, 5 catches. I'm going to say over. As long as he plays, he didn't practice or he was limited today, but I expect him to play and have a decent game. Better play, Hunt or Drake? Kenyon Drake's had some really good weeks. Hunt hasn't until last week when he reemerged. That's an interesting one. I'm going to say Drake because I think that Kansas City will get some things going through the air at that really bad secondary. Bills take on the Patriots. Over, under for Tom Brady, 2.5 touchdowns. I'll say under. I say he throws 2. Better play, Deion Lewis or LaShawn McCoy. I like McCoy a lot. He's the better back. I think in this game, Lewis is the better play. I think New England will get up in this game and it'll lead to more need for Buffalo. I think Deion Lewis is going to get a ton of carries. Falcons take on the Jets. Better play, Ryan or Breeze. Breeze hasn't been the same Drew Brees. He's been efficient, but he doesn't throw the deep ball anymore. Most of his receiving yards that his receivers get from are after the catch. But Matt Ryan hasn't been anything great either. I'm going to say Ryan, though, because I think Breeze is going to be able to rely on his backs, which leads to the follow-up question. Who's a better play, Freeman, Ingram, or Kamara? Freeman had a game reminiscent of 2016 last week in their win against Tampa. Ingram and Kamara both are great plays, and they both have great games each week. But because they're splitting the carries and the touches, I think Freeman has a better overall stat line, even though Ingram and Kamara probably will both score in that game. Eagles, Giants, better play, Nick Foles or Eli Manning? Look, Eli Manning had a good game last week, but I think Nick Foles is the play. I'm sorry, that's an old note. Let me take that out. That's not. What is happening is Chargers, Jets. And the question is, Phillip Rivers, 250 or more? I say more than 250. He had a rough second half against Kansas City, but I think he'll have a great game. Better play, Keenan Allen, who's off the injury report, or Robbie Anderson. I say Allen. Without McCown, Anderson doesn't have the value he once had. Broncos, Skins, C.J. Anderson's over under 75 yards. I'll say under. He had a big game last week. I'll say somewhere in the 65, 68 range. Booker is still going to get some carries. Anderson hasn't won all those carries. Bucks Panthers over under for McCaffrey, 7 catches. I'll say under 5-6 catches. I think he'll get in that game. Better play Cam Newton or Jameis Winston. Winston had a really good Monday night game, but Tampa Bay is bad and they got a banged up secondary. I'll say Cam Newton on this one. Jacksonville versus the 49ers. Better play Bortles or Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm going to say Bortles just because Jacksonville's pass defense is really, really stellar. Over under for Leonard Fournette, 80 yards. I'm going to say, you know what? What the heck? I'm going to say over. Seahawks Cowboys, over under for Russell Wilson, 2.5 total touchdowns. I'll say over. I think he gets 3, maybe 2 passing, 1 on the ground. Over under Ezekiel Elliott, 90 yards. What the heck? Over. I think he's going to resume his role as the workhorse. And thankfully for Ezekiel Elliott owners, the Cowboys are still fighting for a playoff spot. They have no reason to rest or limit what Ezekiel Elliott's going to do as far as touches go. Giants Cardinals. Here's what I was looking for. Over under for Manning, 2.5 touchdowns. Eli Manning's been somebody who's toyed with people's heartstrings this year. I'm going to say under. I'll say 2 touchdowns in that game. Better play Sterling Shepard or Fitzgerald. I like Fitzgerald against a bad for the Giants. Steelers Texans on Monday. There's 2 games on Monday, Christmas Day. Le'Veon Bell over or under 90 yards. I'm going to say over. I think he's the play of the week. He's a guy who's going to win. He's going to win some people championships this week because with Brown out, I think they really lean on Le'Veon Bell, and I think he becomes maybe, excuse me, he won't have the 4 touchdowns, but he's going to have a Todd Gurley-esque day, maybe 120 yards and 2 scores. Over under for Roethlisberger, 1.5 touchdowns. Over. I'll say he gets 2. And finally, Eagles, Raiders, better play Alshon Jeffrey or Michael Crabtree. I'm going to say Jeffrey, but I'm going to say tell you a little interesting story, a tidbit from the game, the Sunday night game where I think Oakland got robbed and then they hurt themselves by fumbling at the goal line. Derek Carr with the fumble. On that play, Crabtree had to leave, and the play that was called was supposed to be a pass to him, go up and get him sort of a pass play, and he was out of the game, which forced Carr to have changed play. Then he scrambled, and then he fumbled, reaching for the pylon, and the Cowboys, with help of an index card, win and keep their playoff hopes alive. So that's really it. That's their lineup questions and some of the over-unders and best plays of the week. It's an abbreviated edition. I do apologize for that. Again, don't have my normal co-host to banter with and throw some of these ideas at. Just a few reminders, though, as I said, get your lineups in for the Saturday games and make sure that you're keeping an eye on those injury reports. We will be back next week for 2 shows because there are still some folks who play 17 weeks in a Week 17 championship, and we'll be around to help you out. That's a little more of a dicey situation. Some things to look at there. Search your waiver wire. Look for teams that are still in a playoff hunt that have guys. And even if you have to find a number 2 receiver from a team fighting for a playoff spot over maybe a number 1 from a team that's clinched and can't move up or down from a seeding standpoint, you might want to make a play there because you're going to see a lot of guys rest in Week 17. But we'll be here to help you. Robert Gardner will join me on Tuesday. Hopefully Kevin Wells next week. And we'll be able to get you ready for those. Otherwise, everybody else who's playing championships this week and championship games this week, good luck to you. And hopefully, again, we've been helpful throughout the season and we can continue to be helpful for the remaining games on your schedule. So from everybody here at Public House Media, I want to take time to wish everybody a happy holiday and a Merry Christmas because we won't speak again until afterwards. And hopefully one of the things Santa will bring you will be a fantasy football championship. I'm Scott Wisniewski. You've been watching Fantasy Wizards. Good night, everybody.